A star-studded NBA Finals begins tonight, but let's go what some of these stars need to do tonight to get the dub. JJ, what must Klay Thompson do tonight for the Warriors?
Look, we know Klay Thompson is a great shooter. There's two things I'm looking for tonight. Klay is an underrated cutter. And so much of what the Warriors do is cutting out of those post splits and those high splits to get layups. And then defensively, he's probably going to be matched up with Jaylen Brown. We haven't seen the pre-injury Klay Thompson on that side of the ball. He's going to have to be huge in this series against that matchup.
Klay versus Jaylen Brown will be something for everybody to watch. Vince, what must Marcus Smart do tonight for the Celtics?
Well, we know what Marcus Smart's going to do defensively and just be annoying. But offensively, man, he's going to have to be aggressive, get into the paint, knock down open shots, because I feel like he's going to get open shots off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So looking for Marcus Smart to also take advantage of mismatches. He's going to try to post up Curry. He's going to try to post up Poole. So his aggressiveness on both ends is important for the Boston Celtics.
JJ, what must Steph Curry do tonight for the Warriors?
He's got to make this a track meet. Look, we talked about the switching with the Celtics. They switch more pick and rolls than any other team in the NBA, and the Warriors have been the worst team in the league against direct switches on pick and rolls. They've got to use the off-ball movement to make people chase Steph Curry over and over again. This is where his conditioning, which is elite, as good as anybody in the NBA, will come into play.
And I think that's an underrated part of his game, too. I think everybody talks about the shots, the scoring averages, things like that. That doesn't describe the whole Steph. It's the conditioning. It's the moving without the ball. That's what makes him so great. So let's talk about Steph for a little bit. 4 wins away from his 4th ring. JJ, if Curry adds another title, where is his place among the all-time greats? Everybody's talking about winning the Finals MVP. That's part of it, yeah. Where's his place among the all-time greats if he wins a title?
To me, he's easily already a top 10 to 12 player.
Ooh.
And if he wins a 4th championship, I think you can cement him in that top 10. The hard part, of course, when we talk about the top 10 is, well, who are you going to move out? Are you moving Wilt Chamberlain out? Are you moving Bill Russell out? Like, there's as time goes on, top 10 is going to mean more and more because we're going to have 20, 25 guys that are worthy of being top 10. But I do think if he wins a 4th championship, you got to move somebody out. He's in the top 10.
Oh, my gosh. We'll have to change top 10 to top 11. Vince, what would a win in the finals mean for Curry's legacy?
So, when we talk about these players, I typically like to wait till they're finished to see how this story ends first and foremost. But I think he's right there, just like JJ said. And, he wins this championship and I'm going to say, and wins the MVP. It opens up another door that a lot of guys don't even know exists. That elite door, it'll say elite status door, that he will now get an opportunity to have the keys to open, because I think what he's done, as, primary scorer, all the attention, but he's an unselfish elite superstar. Like his ability, like JJ said, to be in the best shape, to with his movement, to create opportunities for other players to win because he understands how important they are. That should be factored in. That means something because most superstars want the ball in their hand to prove that they're the superstar. Steph doesn't need it, per se, to be that superstar.
I love that you mentioned that because it brings apart the idea that it's not just about him scoring and him dominating, but about him contributing to the team and making the team great. So when you look at Steph in that vein, Vince, do you think that if he wins this title and or Finals MVP, that it puts him on the same level, if not a greater level than LeBron?
Whoa. Well, I don't want to use the word greater.
Where did that question come from?
I thought I heard something. Yeah, JJ. Whoa. It stopped me right here. But no, I think he deserves to be in the discussion. I think he's in the discussion. And by any means, I'm not saying he will be better than LeBron James. But I think when we talk about what he's done over the course of his career and changed the game, he deserves to be in that conversation. I will say that. I think he deserves to be in that conversation now. But now, when you mentioned, who changed the game, who are some of the icons of today's game, and you're going to mention LeBron James, but you have to say LeBron James. Oh, yeah, and Steph Curry as well.
Yeah. No, I think Vince brings up a great point here, and that's we have to wait to the end of Steph Curry's career. And at 34, he definitely still has some great years left. So we don't even know what his accolades look like at age 38 or 39. The key thing here with LeBron is just the longevity, the sustained excellence that we've seen now since 2003, 2004. You know, Steph's run here, while incredible, is really since 2015. So I do think the longevity of LeBron, the All-NBAs, the MVP, like all that stuff, that factors in to why he's so great.
And let's not forget, LeBron has had, and again, we can all debate this, LeBron hasn't had the kind of teams that Steph has had, especially in recent years. LeBron's had to carry teams. But on the other hand, I look at it and I say, well, Steph is kind of a winner, and he defers some of his opportunities and talent in order to build for the team.
Draymond talked about this yesterday in the press availability. You know, he talked about the whole system, the whole organization, everything starts with Steph Curry being a selfless star. The greatest example of that in recent memory is Tim Duncan. Like, yeah, Pop was great, Tony Parker was great, Manu Ginobili was great, but if we're being honest, it started with Tim Duncan being so good and so selfless, and Steph is the same way.
And that's what I think is missing from the discussion when people say, is he great if he doesn't win a Finals MVP?
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.